So, let's talk about macroeconomics. I know, it sounds like a big, complicated word, but stick with me. This is the stuff that secretly runs our lives. It's what shapes your job prospects, the price of your groceries, even the value of your savings. We're going to zoom all the way out and look at the big picture of the economy.
All right, let's get right to it. You hear the phrase, the economy, on the news, like every single day. But what even is it? Is it the stock market? Is it how many jobs are out there? The price of gas? Well, yeah, it's kind of all of that, and a whole lot more. The real question, though, is why should any of it matter to you?
Well, here's the deal. Understanding this stuff helps you make sense of the world. It explains why some years it feels like everyone's hiring and other years not so much. It helps you understand what politicians are actually talking about with taxes and spending. And honestly, it just makes you a more informed person, you know? Someone who can make better choices for themselves and their community.
Okay, to really start digging in, we need a way to measure this giant, sprawling thing we call the economy. We need some kind of scorecard. And in macroeconomics, that scorecard has a very specific name.
And that name is real gross domestic product, or what everyone just calls real GDP. Now, it sounds super technical, but the idea is actually pretty simple. It's the total value of everything, and I mean everything a country produces in a year. From cars to coffees to computer code, you just add it all up. The real part is key. It means it's adjusted for inflation so we can make fair comparisons over time. Just think of it as the single best number for checking the pulse of the entire economy.
So, what does that economic pulse look like for the US over the last 60-plus years? Well, this chart tells the main story perfectly. Just look at that red line. It's a relentless, powerful uphill climb. Now yeah, you can see all those little wiggles and dips, and don't worry, we are definitely getting to those. But the huge, undeniable story of the modern economy is growth. And the number behind that incredible climb, it's actually kind of small, just 2.6% per year on average. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but here's the magic. It compounds. That steady, plodding growth completely transforms a country over time. It means that, on average, each generation can expect to be about twice as wealthy as the one before it. That is a massive deal for our standard of living.
So what does that compounding growth actually look like in the real world? The sheer scale of it can be kind of hard to wrap your head around. Let me try to put it into perspective for you.
Okay, check this out. Picture the size of the US economy way back in 1972. Now, add the entire modern-day economies of both Japan and Germany to it. You with me? That total is about how big the US economy is today. So the key takeaway is that the increase alone, just the growth, in the US economy over 50 years is bigger than what two of the world's greatest economic powerhouses produce right now. That just shows you the incredible power of long-term growth. So that's the big picture, a steady climb up. But if you've been alive for the last, say, 20 years, you know it doesn't always feel like a smooth ride. So now let's zoom in on those wiggles we saw in the chart. Let's talk about the bumps in the road.
The thing is, the economy doesn't grow in a perfect straight line. It moves in what economists call business cycles. You get these periods of really fast growth, those are expansions, and then you get periods of decline, which are called recessions. This picture here shows that basic pattern. You hit a peak, then a downturn, you bottom out, and then you start recovering toward the next peak.
Let's just break that down really quick. A cycle starts at a peak, that's the high point. Then comes a recession, a period where things are shrinking. The very bottom of that downturn is called the trough. And then, finally, you have the expansion, when the economy starts growing again, climbing all the way up to the next peak. This pattern, it has repeated itself over and over again throughout history.
You know, the word recession can feel a little abstract, right? Just another term economists throw around. But these downturns have very, very real consequences for millions of people. So let's zoom in even closer and look at what a recession looks like from the ground.
Okay, so officially, a recession is just a decline in economic activity that lasts for at least 6 months. Remember those gray bars on the first chart we looked at? Those were the recessions. They're the official downturns. But what does a downturn actually feel like for regular people?
For most of us, the answer is unemployment. When the economy shrinks, businesses stop hiring. A lot of times, they have to lay people off. And the unemployment rate is what measures that. It's the percentage of people who want a job but just can't find one. This is the number that really captures the human cost of a recession.
And that cost can be absolutely massive. Just to see how dramatic it can get, look at this number. In April of 2020, at the absolute peak of the COVID-19 shock, the unemployment rate shot up to 14.7%. That means millions and millions of people lost their jobs practically overnight. It was the sharpest, most severe spike in unemployment in modern history.
And this table here really shows how different recessions can be. I mean, look at the Great Depression. It was incredibly long, 43 months, and the economy just fell off a cliff, shrinking by almost a third. Now compare that to the COVID recession. It was the shortest one ever, just 2 months, but it was incredibly severe, with GDP dropping over 10%. Each recession really tells its own unique story. So what we have are these two powerful forces that almost seem to contradict each other, right? You have this relentless uphill climb over the long haul, and then you have these sometimes really painful short-term bumps along the way. Let's see how they fit together.
This really brings us to the core idea of macroeconomics. It's like you're watching two stories unfold at the exact same time. First, there's the long-term story of economic growth, that relentless uphill climb that raises our standard of living over generations. But then there's the short-term story of economic fluctuations, the business cycle, with all its temporary setbacks and recoveries. The most important thing to remember is that the long-term trend is overwhelmingly positive, even if the path to get there isn't always smooth.
And all of this leads us to the biggest questions of all. We've seen the what, we've seen the growth and the cycles, but we haven't answered why. What are the forces that actually drive that incredible long-term climb? And what causes those recessions and recoveries in the first place? Answering those questions, well, that's what the rest of macroeconomics is all about.